A bitter wind howled through the village of Ravenshollow as the people gathered in the central hall, their faces pale with fear. The sickness had spread, the vanishings continued, and now the village bell had rung on its own. It was a sound that chilled their bones, for the bell had long been abandoned, its ropes rotted, and its iron rusted with time. It was the elder matron Isolde who finally spoke. Her voice, though aged and wavering, carried the weight of a long-buried truth. "You must know the tale of Elara," she said. "The woman our ancestors condemned, the woman who cursed us all. Long ago, before Ravenshollow was a thriving village, it was a nameless settlement on the edge of the great woods. Elara had been one of them, a healer, a woman of the land who knew the secrets of herbs and the whispers of the wind. The people had trusted her, relied on her, until a terrible sickness struck the village. A sickness much like the one that plagued them now. In their desperation, the villagers had turned on Elara, accusing her of witchcraft. They dragged her to the town square, bound her to the stake, and set her aflame. As the fire consumed her, she screamed a curse that echoed through time. "I will return when the bell tolls for me," she had vowed, her voice twisting with the wind. "I will return when the blood of the guilty runs cold. I will return, and Ravenshollow will burn." And that night, the bell had rung. As the villagers listened to Isolde's tale, the night deepened, the wind carrying whispers through the cracks of the hall. Then came a sound that froze their hearts, a heavy, resonant clang. The bell. A young boy, Thomas, was the first to see it. "At the well!" he gasped. "Someone is standing at the well!" The people rushed outside, their breath rising in white clouds. There, beneath the ghostly glow of the moon, stood a figure draped in shadow. The villagers held their torches high, but no light could touch the being that loomed before them. Its face was a void, its eyes nothing but two smoldering pits of red. It raised one hand, skeletal and clawed, pointing toward them. A voice, neither human nor earthly, rang through the night. "You burned me, you buried me, now I have returned." Panic spread like wildfire as the villagers fled, locking their doors and barring their windows. But no lock, no barrier could keep Elara out. The marks appeared on doors once more, but now they burned with an eerie green glow. The sickened grew worse, their fevers peaking to unnatural heights. Shadows moved in the streets where no one walked, and the air itself seemed to throb with unseen energy. Father Aldrich fell to his knees before the old church altar, begging for divine intervention. But the air turned thick, the candlelight flickered, and a whisper coiled around his ears. "There is no God here, only me." The village erupted into chaos. The torches in the town square flared wildly, leaping higher than any fire should. And then, the first home went up in flames. Then another, and another. Elara had not lied. Ravenshollow would burn. Desperate, The villagers turned back to Isolde, demanding an answer, a way to undo what had been set in motion. But the elder shook her head, tears streaking down her withered face. There is no undoing. There is only retribution. The bell tolled once more, louder than before, shaking the very ground beneath them, and one by one, the marked villagers fell to their knees, their bodies dissolving into ash as Elara's laughter echoed through the flames. And then, she was gone. By dawn, half the village had perished, their homes reduced to smoldering ruins. The survivors gathered at the well, staring into its depths. The water, once clear, was now black as ink. Elara had returned, and she had left her mark. The curse of Ravenshollow had only just begun.
The bells of Ravenshollow tolled once more, but this time they did not stop. The sound rang through the village, a ceaseless echoing wail that shook the very stones of the church. The villagers clutched their ears, their faces twisted in fear, for they knew this was no ordinary toll. It was a summons. Father Aldrich, trembling but resolute, stepped forward. He had spent the night preparing, poring over sacred texts, whispering prayers to a God who had remained silent. Clutching a worn crucifix, he pushed open the heavy doors of the church, ready to confront the evil that had gripped their village. But as he entered, the doors burst open with a violent force, slamming against the stone walls. A howling wind tore through the pews, snuffing out every candle in an instant. Shadows lengthened unnaturally, stretching toward the altar where a small figure knelt. A child. At first, Father Aldrich thought it was one of the missing children, returned at last. But as he stepped closer, he saw the boy's face, or what remained of it. His skin was cracked like old parchment, his lips moving in a silent chant. His eyes were hollow sockets, empty, yet burning with something unnatural. A strange, guttural voice spilled from his mouth, uttering a language that had not been spoken by human tongues for centuries. The priest faltered, the crucifix shaking in his grip. In the name of the Holy Father, I command you to stop. The child's chanting grew louder. The walls of the church trembled. Outside, the sky blackened. The stars vanished, swallowed by an abyss that pulsed and shifted like living flesh. A terrible wail rose from the village as one by one, the people of Ravenshollow began to scream. The villagers staggered into the streets, their hands clutching at their throats. The marks that had appeared on their doors now burned into their very skin, glowing with an eerie, green light. Their veins blackened, their bodies convulsed. Some fell to their knees, clawing at their flesh, while others staggered blindly toward the church, drawn by the unseen force that pulled them like puppets on broken strings. The village bell tolled again, 3 times, then 4, then 5. A rhythm of doom. "It's the witch!" someone cried. "She's taken us." Inside the church, the air grew thick and oppressive, pressing down on Father Aldrich like a weight. The child at the altar rose to his feet, his chanting reaching a fevered pitch. The ground trembled, cracks forming in the stone floor beneath him. From the darkness, figures emerged, half-seen shapes twisted and wrong, their eyes gleaming with malice. Aldrich tried to raise his voice in prayer, but his throat tightened as unseen hands gripped his neck. He fell to his knees, gasping as the shadows closed in. Then from the altar, a voice spoke. "You denied me death. Now, I will give it to you all." The air turned to fire. The pews ignited in an instant, flames leaping toward the ceiling. The great stained glass window shattered outward, sending shards of crimson and blue tumbling onto the screaming villagers below. A figure stepped forward from the darkness, a woman draped in shadows, her face obscured, but her eyes burning like embers. Elara. The villagers fell before her, their bodies contorted in agony. One by one, they collapsed into the dirt, their flesh dissolving into blackened ash. Only those who bore no mark were spared. Children too young to know fear, the blind, the mad. Elara turned her gaze to Father Aldrich, who knelt at the altar, clutching his chest. He tried to speak, to ask for mercy, but the words died on his lips. She raised a hand, and the bell tolled one final time. With a final whispered incantation, the remaining villagers burst apart, their souls ripped from their bodies in a silent scream. Their essence rose into the air, swirling around Elara, feeding her, strengthening her, and then silence. The church stood empty. The fires burned out. The sky cleared. But Ravenshollow was no more. Elara turned toward the great woods and vanished into the shadows, her vengeance complete. The witch had returned, and her hunger had only just begun. At the stroke of midnight, the earth trembled beneath Ravenshollow. Cracks snaked through the village square, splitting the cobblestone apart like brittle bones. The air turned thick, suffocating, as if the night itself had come alive. Then, with a deafening roar, the ground burst open, and from its fiery depths, Elara emerged. Her flesh was charred and cracked, yet she stood tall, untouched by pain. Her eyes, once human, now glowed with the intensity of 1,000 embers. A gust of wind howled through the village, carrying the scent of burning flesh, of old vengeance rekindled. The witch had returned to claim what was hers. The few villagers who remained, those untouched by the curse, the ones who had hidden behind locked doors praying to gods who no longer listened, stepped out into the night. Their faces were pale with terror, their breaths shallow. One by one, they were seized by unseen forces, their bodies lifted from the ground as if caught in the grasp of invisible hands. They screamed, but the night swallowed their cries, allowing only silence to stretch through the hollow streets. Then, they were dragged, pulled from their homes, torn from their loved ones, into the gaping maw of the forest, where shadows waited with outstretched arms. The trees of the forest swayed without wind, their branches curling like fingers beckoning their victims deeper. The villagers, helpless and bound by Elara's will, stumbled forward, their bodies moving against their own volition. The deeper they walked, the colder it became. The warmth of the village fires faded, replaced by a chilling void that drained the life from their bones. Among them was Matron Isolde, the village elder who had warned them all of Elara's return. Her frail hands clutched at her chest as she struggled against the force pulling her forward. "Please," she whispered, "have mercy." Elara stepped forward, her voice like the rustling of dead leaves. "Mercy," she mused. "Did your ancestors show me mercy? Did they listen when I begged for my life?" Isolde fell silent, knowing There would be no answer that would save her. At the heart of the forest, where the trees grew impossibly tall and the moon's light dared not reach, the villagers were thrown to the ground in a circle. In the center, a great stone altar stood, covered in markings older than Ravenshollow itself. Elara raised her arms, and the symbols glowed with an eerie light. For centuries, I have waited, she said. Waited for the fear of my name to give me power. And now, you will feed the roots of this land with your suffering. One by one, the villagers convulsed, their bodies contorted, their skins splitting as black tendrils slithered from their wounds. Their screams pierced the stillness of the forest, but no one would hear them. No one would remember them. Their souls were consumed, drawn into the earth, binding their agony to the land forever. When the first light of dawn touched Ravenshollow, it revealed a village devoid of life. Homes stood abandoned, doors swinging open in the breeze. The well in the square had dried up overnight, its depths dark and bottomless. The fields, once golden with crops, had withered to dust. Only the wind remained, carrying faint whispers, the echoes of the screams that once filled its streets. Elara was gone. The villagers were gone. And Ravenshollow was nothing more than a shadow of the past, cursed to be forgotten. Yet, deep in the heart of the whispering woods, the earth still pulsed with something unnatural, as if waiting for the day when fear would call the witch's wrath once more.